Hey everybody, this is Ray Canny, and today I'm taking a look at Boruto, the board game. This is basically an adaptation of, Boruto is like the continuation of the Naruto series. I'm a huge fan of Naruto. I have a Naruto tattoo, so I think that means it's pretty serious. But yeah, this is basically a cooperative game where you're taking different ninjas, trying to save the village as different bad guys attack you. Let's take a look at how it plays. In Boruto, the board game, players are going to be trying to defend the village against a villain here, basically. So there's a bunch of different villains you could play against. This is kind of like the scenario you're facing off against. I'm going to show mostly Shin Uchiha, but there are several different ones you can face off against, which are going to have slightly different rules. But yeah, this is mostly about trying to defeat the clones before they build up too much threat and damage the village too much, and being able to take out Shin Uchiha himself. So each player is going to choose a junior ninja to play with, and then you're going to have an acrylic standee for that. And then you're also going to be choosing a ninja to pair them up against. So you could have Sadara with Kakashi, or you could have Konohamaru with them, or Hinata with them, or Sakura. You could always choose who you want to team up with. I mean, maybe you want to do Sadara with Sakura, so that way you can have like the mother-daughter sort of thing going on. And then we could have Naruto with Boruto, so that way we can have like the family team-ups going on. So basically the way this works is on your turn, you're going to be choosing 2 cards to play. If you look in the top here, there are little dashes here. That means you have to have chakra to actually play them down. So at the beginning of the game, I would have a few cards I could play without having to use chakra. Most cards are going to allow you to do 3 different things. You could either move, you could do a range combat attack, which has the little ninja star there, or you could do a close combat attack. So when you play one of these out, like let's say I played this, I'll be able to move my acrylic standee 2 spaces. On the map, there's little spaces here. This board is decently small overall. I'll try to zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on. But we do have a couple of clones on the board, and then spaces we can move along. So if I move 2 spaces, I can move over here to space 8, basically the hospital here, and then this would be put down into play. The bottom here shows chakra that I could spend. So now that I've played this card into play, I now have access to play, say I could do Boruto Stream, or some of these other ones cost even more, so I could save up chakra. This would cost a red chakra, a yellow chakra, and then the gray is any color chakra. So I could try to play out cards specifically to be able to play some of my more powerful cards. I will probably just, in this case, just play this down so that way I could roll 3 dice. So basically I'm trying to roll and get hits. We can look here on the villain board. The clones take 2 hits to do 1 damage to them. And these guys, if you damage them, then you just knock them out. So I'd roll the dice, and I need at least 2 hits. I got 3, so that means I would be able to knock this guy out and take him off the board. Then that would be Boruto's turn that's done. Another cool thing is like when any player is trying to spin chakra, you can actually spin chakra out of other players' pool. So when you do that, you would turn that card face down and kind of do whatever it says. You can also turn cards face down to do an echo effect. So this says, after any ninja rolls a defense die, you can add 2 dice to that to defend, and you would put that face down. So yeah, you can kind of use cards for kind of little multi-use stuff there. Anytime after a player's done, you'll go through the actions on the villain board here. This one says, each threat token attacks a ninja at their location. So the only threat token is over here, so there's no ninja there, so that doesn't happen. Then each threat token that there's no ninja there will deal 1 damage to the village instead. So you can do different difficulties. You can basically set this up to like 18 if you want to play on easy, or like 16 if you want to play on normal. So you'd have to do this down. One of the ways to lose the game is if you go all the way down to 0, or say I was in a space with a threat token or a villain when they were attacking. I would roll a die. If I get a shield, I would block against it. If I get a hit on me, whether it's 1 or 2, I would take 1 heart damage. If my character dies, then we'll lose the game as well. So we're basically trying to keep our characters alive and basically get to destroying the villain. So now I would have a blue chakra, a yellow chakra, and a red chakra. So I could, in fact, play this medical ninjutsu. I can do a 5 strength attack against an enemy and choose a ninja to regain 1 health, which is not super useful right now, but I just want to show how you can do a big attack against the villain. So I'm going to roll 5 of these dice, and for each 2 damage I do, I'm going to do 1 damage to him. So I did 1, 2, 3. So since I did 3 attacks, that means I only do 1 damage to him, which means he will trigger his ability here, which makes him move. And then we'll flip this card up. So we do the B side here. He moves to space 5 and puts another threat out there. And then at the end of my turn, because there are 2 bad guys here with nobody, this would go down by 2. And I got a pretty poor roll on that overall. But then we would basically, at the beginning of Boruto's turn, he would take his cards back. And then the beginning of Sadaro's turn, she would take her cards back, just depending on when that happens. You just continue playing the game until either A, you knock the villain out once you beat him the first phase. They would flip over, and they're going to be a little bit stronger on the other side. He now has 3 hits you have to do to him to be able to do damage to him. And now when you spawn, threat tokens are going to spawn at A and B. So more of these clones are going to come out everywhere all over the board, basically messing up the village even more. The cool thing is you have a bunch of different allies that you can have each game. You're normally only going to have 3 out here. And anybody can use these. These don't take up your action for the turn. And you can kind of mix and match which junior ninja you're going against with which senior ninja, so allowing you to have slightly different play. And then you have these cool different acrylic standees as all the different stuff. And several different villains you can play against. And hopefully you can like mix and match up the difficulty a little bit basing on how much you start the village having, how much health you want to have. But that's basically how you play Boruto Next Generation, the board game. So overall, this game is interesting to me. I like the card play a little bit of being able to play cards out and trying to work together to build up chakra and be able to kind of do those more powerful attacks against the villains, trying to figure out how to plan out your movement so that way you can take care of threats. There's also a lot of different variety in all the different villains. I mean, it's not too crazy. Most things put threat out on the board and you find ways to attack and minimize that threat. But you do have ones where there's multiple villains you're fighting and those villains are coming up and attacking you. You have to worry a lot more about your health because they're moving around a lot more. But yeah, so this is an interesting game overall. I like the fact that there's a lot of representation of characters from the show. It's kind of cool to have these acrylic standees of all the different characters that you know and like from the anime. I'm definitely a fan of the IP, even though I like Naruto more than Boruto overall. I haven't watched all of the Boruto series. I've watched everything for Naruto, which is a huge undertaking. But I think this game is interesting. The main thing that is a gripe of this game is the fact that it's all based on dice rolls. You can set everything up the best you can, and if you roll the wrong thing, whether it be defense for defending or attacking, and you just get a bunch of defense symbols when you're attacking and don't do hits, then you're going to have a bad time overall. There's a little bit of stuff to negate that with trying to put out cards that have echo effects that you can kind of like respond and add more dice or do damage without having to roll, just get a little bit of an extra edge out there. But it does make it pretty difficult overall. If the dice just don't go your way, you're going to lose the game. If the dice go great, then you're going to win the game. That you can kind of set yourself up the best you can, but if you don't get lucky on those dice rolls, you're just going to be messed up. I do feel like it's cool as a cooperative game. There's a decent amount of cooperation overall, being able to try to build up the correct chakra colors to be able to play your strong attacks, especially when you're attacking the villain, because you don't want to do a little bit of damage and have a bunch of reactions go off on the villain. You want to do a bunch of damage so that way you can knock them out of their health, so they're only going to have a few reactions, making it so you don't get the village screwed up even more with all the threat tokens coming out and things like that. I do like that you can change up the difficulty of the game a little bit with how much hit points you have the village, but it does seem like it goes down so fast when you have different threats on the board that are knocking that village hit point track down. For me, I think I'm going to give this a 6 overall. It's not something that I'm going to come back to time and time again. If I had someone who was a huge fan of Boruto, like really enjoyed the IP a bunch, I might sit down and play this with them. But it's not something that I'm going to recommend, especially if you don't know the IP in general. But I do think this is a cool attempt at a Boruto game, and I love stuff that's cooperative. I love seeing the characters from the IP that I love so much. Anyway, this is Boruto, the board game. I've been Roy Canade. I'll see you on the next one.